Hello guys, it's Bonks. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of a VOD review. We're going to be looking at quite an old VOD today. I know it's been a while since I uploaded to this channel, but basically I'm going to be doing a bunch of VOD reviews over the next couple weeks. One second, let me turn this down a bit. It's kind of... that's like as low as it goes. But yeah, I'm going to be doing a bunch of VOD reviews, starting with this one. Today we're looking at Chovy Syndra versus a Zoe. This is quite an old VOD, it's back in like pre-season 11, but the concepts I'm going to be talking about are still the same. Like nothing changes just because of a few balance patches. The only key difference really to note is that Syndra's mana costs in this patch I think are much higher than they are now, but I don't know, I haven't fact checked that. But today I might mention it later if it like impacts something, but today we're going to be focusing on the lane opening of a specific lane opening of when you're playing a mage versus a mage that can contest each other for the push of the wave. And now, what a lane opening means, if you don't know, it's pretty much how you play the first maybe 3 or 4 waves of the game. However you play those is your quote-unquote lane opening. So that's what we're going to be going over. We're going to be going over the thought process, how you decide like what lane opening to use and whatnot. But today's lane opening is going to be based on 2 mages that have similar strength early game, similar pushing power, and we're going to be talking about why they do what they do and all that stuff. So pretty much when you're playing in this kind of matchup, you're playing a mage against another mage, they both have good pushing power and stuff. What you're going to do in this lane is you're going to try and push the wave as much as possible and out-push the other person. So why are we going to be doing that? Well, to work that out, let's think about the advantages of pushing. There are 2 advantages that you get to pushing in the early game. The first advantage is that you get to hit level 2 or level 3 first, because you get to kill the creeps earlier that give you level 2 and level 3, so you can hit that spike sooner. So that's the first advantage to pushing in the early game. The second advantage to pushing in the early game is you can crash a wave into tower. Now crashing a wave into tower lets you do a multitude of things. For one, it can let you base. You can like set up a base timer if you want to like ditch lane and go spend some money. You can go and help your jungler with scuttle crab. You can poke the enemy under tower, just using abilities while they farm. So there are quite a few things you can do when you crash the wave. And these are the main 2 advantages of pushing. So if you're in a lane where you can push, then ideally you should, because pushing brings these advantages, and not pushing doesn't really bring any advantages. You kind of just like... Of course you're like safe, right? The main advantage to not pushing usually is that you can farm in a safe position. But in the early game, you don't really need to worry about ganks anyway, because you can track the jungler really easily. You can ward for their ganks and whatnot. Maybe if you're playing against like a Jarvan or a Lee Sin that can level 2 gank you, then not pushing as good, because you want to be safe. But most of the time, you want to be able to push in the early game. Now the disadvantage to pushing, let's just put like a minus here, I guess, to like indicate it, is the position. The position of where the wave is. The position of the wave is on their side, right? So it's going to end up over here if you try and push, right? If Syndra pushes in this lane, the lane's going to end up over here, right? And now this can be really, really bad if it ends up getting frozen, right? If it ends up getting frozen and the wave ends up here frozen, that's really, really bad for you, right? Which is why you only want to push if you aren't in danger of being frozen on. And how do you avoid a freeze? Well, you have to crash the wave. So if you're a champion that can force a crash, right? In other words, you can crash a wave forcefully, you can blow all your spells, you can hit it really hard, you can force a crash, then pushing is always going to be a good thing, if you can, right? If you're playing, let's say you're playing Talon into Syndra, right? Pushing is going to be a good thing, because you're playing Talon and you can use your W on the wave and you can force a crash. However, you can't, because Syndra will just like poke you, right? She'll just zone you away from the wave, so you can't push, you physically can't, right? Now if you're playing Zed into Syndra, for example, actually let's say you're playing Victor into Syndra. Victor into Syndra, you can push because you're a ranged champ, you have abilities that help you push, but you can't force a crash, because if you walk up to push the wave later with your E has a very high cooldown, it's very weak early on, it doesn't do much damage, it costs a lot of mana, right? So the Syndra, if you try and crash a wave into a Syndra as Victor, she's going to zone you away, right? And she's going to stop you from doing that. So you can't force a crash, right? So To decide whether you want to push or not, here's what I'm getting at here. To decide whether you want to push or not, first you have to work out whether you can. Right, can you push? Question mark. If you're playing Talon into Syndra, you can't, right? So immediately you're not going to push, right? Or if you're playing against a Jarvan or a Lee Sin, you're going to get ganked if you push, right? Like level 2, so you can't. Unless you ward, in which case you can. But this is the first question, right? Is can I push early? And we're talking about early game here, the wave openings, okay? Not like mid game and stuff. Right, so the first question you ask when you're deciding if you want to push or not is can you? Right, thinking about the advantages, pushing is always good, but can you actually do it? Or are they going to stop you? So that's the first thing. The second thing is, can you force a crash? Because even if you can get the push, a lot of champs can't force a crash into certain matchups. Like I was saying, Victor into Syndra, if you try and force a crash into Syndra, she'll just zone you away, right? And your abilities don't do damage quick enough to crash a wave. But if you're playing Victor into Zed, for example, then Zed won't be able to zone you away if you're playing Victor, because you have the range advantage, right? So you're just going to shove him away, you're going to zone him away with your autos, with your Qs, with your range. So if you're playing Victor into Zed, you can force a crash. If you're playing Victor into Syndra, or TF, or Orianna, you can't force a crash, right? And this is the biggest difference when you're playing, like, looking at the matchup and stuff. So first off, can you push? Can you force a crash? Now, the way this matchup works is Syndra and Zoe both can push, and they both can force a crash. So they both want to push, is the crux of this matchup. So they're going to be fighting each other to try and get the push advantage. And the way you can get the push advantage is you can either push faster than them using your abilities. So, you know, if you're playing Orianna against Zoe, then Orianna will just Q the wave, Zoe will Q the wave, but Orianna Q will do more because it will hit the whole wave, whereas Zoe Q will only hit the front minions. So Orianna will get the push. Or the other way you can get the push, in this case, the pushing power is quite even. So the other way to get the push is to bully them. You can try and fight them. So what you'll see in this lane is both Zoe and Syndra will try and fight each other, bully each other, and contest each other for the push. And we're going to look at how that happens, or how that works. Because the main thing in this lane is you don't want to be a bitch, and you don't want to let the other person push you in. So that's what we're mainly going to be looking at. That was quite a long intro, sorry about that. Just had to make sure you understand. If you don't understand that explanation, drop a comment. Whatever, yeah. So, right off the bat, what we see in... had a bit of a tongue moment right there. What we'll see right off the bat is Syndra will auto this minion. And that is her pushing the wave. She's autoing this minion so she can push the wave into Zoe. Right? And Zoe, as we can see right here, is she's standing quite far back so she can get a long range Q on these minions to, again, push the wave. So we'll see. Zoe will Q the minions like this to push it in. Chovy, okay, and then Chovy does this, right? Now the thing with this Q is decent. This Q right here. Because it hits Zoe. One thing that Syndra really, really wants to do early is she wants to proc her mana flow. So that's why she went for this Q, or I guess I should say he, because it's Chovy. If you don't know who Chovy is, by the way, he's like best mid laner in the world. So yeah, just thought I'd clarify that. A lot of people say that. So this Q, it hits this minion and it hits Zoe. So it's decent, right? Because it helps the push, right? It pushes the wave a little bit because it hits the minion. And it also deals damage to Zoe. And as I said earlier, if you can bully the other person and get them low enough, let's say you get Zoe down to this HP, then she's forced to run away and she can't access the wave anymore. And if she can't access the wave, she can't push, and then Syndra gets the push. So bullying them and pushing at the same time with a spell like this that hits everything is really, really good. Now, this is why, as well, Zoe doesn't stand here. Because if Zoe stood here, then this Q would be able to hit Zoe and the minions. And that's really, really bad. So when you're playing a matchup like this, and you know that the enemy wants to push, right? So Zoe, in this example, she should stand away from the minions. And that's why Syndra didn't stand near these minions at the beginning as well. Because she didn't want to tank the Zoe Q. So you can tell this Zoe, not the best player in the world. Because she's, giving Syndra this opportunity to hit the wave and her. So as Zoe here, this is a mistake. She should have entered here. Because you don't want to give them the push and the poke. Because, as I said earlier, the two ways you gain the push advantage is you push and you poke. So giving them both at the same time with one ability, horrible thing to do. Do not do this. And now we'll see here, Syndra's hitting the minions because she wants to push, so is Zoe. Q's the wave here. As you can see, Zoe is standing far away from it, right? So now Syndra, they have like confusing names because they're both like S and Z, so I'm going to mess it up. But yeah, so now Syndra is forced to Q the wave, because if she Qs Zoe here, then what's going to happen is Zoe, even though she's taken a little bit of damage, she's going to push this wave really, really quickly. And then Syndra's going to be forced to run away, and for the rest of the lane, she just has to concede. She will never get the push back past that point. So giving Zoe the push here would be really bad, which is why she Qs the wave. And now, obviously, Zoe does the same. She Qs the wave because she wants to push. And now they're going to auto. And actually, you can see quite a common mistake people make. You can kind of see like the bars in the way a bit. I'll like move my mouse so you can see. If you look at the minimap right now, you can see shit's happening in the jungle. What you'll notice, Chovy does not give a fuck, bro. He is not moving to go and help that right now. Because if he did, he would give up all control of his lane. He would give Zoe the push, as I was saying. Which, even though he would be able to help this fight, it would really, really fuck him over in the long run. So do not go and help in this situation when it's like a fair 3v3. Unless the lane is like dead even and you haven't touched it yet. And you know you won't miss minions. Most of the time, which won't be the case. So here, just like, he's not going to help this. Zoe isn't going to help this. That is for a reason. A good reason. Because they don't want to give up the lane. Now they're taking last hits. Alright, sorry about that. I was just interrupted. What was I saying? Alright, yeah, now they're just pushing the wave. They're just pushing the wave, taking last hits. And now Syndra's going to have to queue this again. Because otherwise, these waves... I'll just show you. She's probably going to do it, right? Yeah. Okay, so again... if Syndra queued Zoe here, it would have been really, really bad. Because if we just think ahead, if Syndra queues Zoe, then all these minions will focus down this minion. This minion will die really fast. And then these 3 minions, or maybe only 2 of them, will end up walking into Syndra. Right? And what that means is Syndra is forced to hit them. Right? Like, let's say, you know, Zoe will kill this. Syndra queues Zoe. Zoe kills this. And then we'll end up with Syndra over here and the minions over here. And then Syndra is forced to kill these minions with autos, right? Because she doesn't want to let them in the tower because then she'll miss the last hits. So she'll be forced to kill them with autos. And then by the time the next wave gets here, Zoe will start hitting it, right? Zoe will be standing like, let's say, Zoe will be standing like here. And then the next wave, W for the wave, is here. Zoe will start hitting this wave. Meanwhile, Syndra is still clearing these guys. And then what that means is Zoe gets to push on the next wave. So now Syndra has to clear these to prevent that from happening. So Syndra queues this because she really, really doesn't want to concede the push. And then Syndra's Q is now on cooldown, so Zoe takes this opportunity, goes for a trade. Syndra fights back because she doesn't want to just, like, you know, give Zoe a massively one trade. Syndra's Q cooldown is also shorter than Zoe's, so Syndra extends this trade so that she can land an extra Q. Because if she just, like, ran away here, then Zoe would be able to retreat now. Syndra would, like, let's say just Syndra ran away. Syndra would then not be able to land the extra Q. So Syndra keeps the trade going because she now knows that she's going to land a Q and Zoe's Q is on cooldown. So she extends the trade, lands the Q, and now she walks away. Because now Zoe's Q is going to come up while hers will still be on cooldown. So now she forced to walk away. So there's a lot of heavy trading going on here. I'll be like 5 seconds, hold on. Sorry about that, my dog wanted to come in my room. So what was I saying? The second time I've been interrupted. Right, now they're going to fight for the push again, because as I was saying before, pushing is good. You want to get the push. It lets you bully them. It lets you do all these things. So again, they're going to keep fighting for the push. Or at least they should, and they probably will because they're good players. And so, yep, Zoe throws her Q back. Syndra goes again for the same Q as before on this minion and Zoe. But Zoe, like... Sorry about that, got interrupted again. So Syndra is going to try now to use this Q, hit both Zoe again. Zoe sees through it and dodges the Q, which is good by her. And then Qs the wave to push it, right? So now Zoe is kind of leading in the push. And the other thing I didn't mention is now on this wave is the other advantage to pushing we talked about, where you're going to get level 2 first if you have the push lead. So now both Zoe and Syndra know if Syndra kills any one of these 3 minions, she'll hit level 2. If Zoe kills any one of these 3 minions, she'll hit level 2. She doesn't have to kill this one first, by the way. So Zoe only needs one of these, even though she hasn't fully cleared the wave yet. That's just how it works. So they both start targeting. What you'll see, Syndra is now going to start targeting one minion. Because if she targets this one minion and kills it, she can then get level 2 and move in and start fighting Zoe. So she targets this one minion, goes for the Q on the Zoe here. Zoe then Qs the wave. And now you'll see Zoe start doing the same. She starts targeting one minion because she wants to hit level 2. So then they both start hitting the minion, the same, or like one minion to hit level 2. And the other thing you'll see is Syndra was originally targeting this minion, but then he sees this minion, runs into his 3 casters, so now he knows that this minion will die sooner, so he starts targeting it. You can see he's like hitting it really hard right now, and then boom. He hits level 2, Zoe is still level 1, so he's going to move in right now. Boom, lands an E. And now this again, same thing as earlier. Here, Zoe should not stand here right now, because she knows that Syndra's going to hit level 2. So if Syndra E's here, she ends up hitting, as you can see, she ends up hitting the wave and Zoe, which is really, really bad from Zoe again, because she pushes these 2 minions, so she pushes the overall wave faster and pokes Zoe. So that's really good from Syndra, going for the E there. And when you're hitting a level advantage like this, moving in is something you should always do. So you can see, hits level 2, walks forward, he was like here, he walks forward, goes for the poke on Zoe, so that's really, really important. But still, the main thing going on here is they're contesting for the push. That's the main idea in their mind. So they're fighting each other and pushing the wave to try and get the overall push. So now, yep, and as you can see, Zoe is still trying to Q the wave and push it. Syndra now has the push, so she'll just last hit these and try and Q Zoe maybe. So yep. And now, this is the thing I was describing earlier, where Syndra had to Q like the 3 minions at the back. So Zoe didn't get the push. Now, as you can see, Zoe has to farm these, right? She has to farm these 3 minions. And now what that means is, while Zoe is farming these 3, Syndra is now hitting this one. So Syndra is already pushing the 3rd wave, whereas Zoe is still busy farming the 2nd because Syndra pushed the 2nd. So this is the advantage of pushing the 2nd wave, is now she can get early access to the 3rd wave, push the 3rd wave in, and potentially go and base or help her jungler, as we were saying earlier. A lot of things you can do when you push the wave. So now she autos it again, lands a Q on Zoe, and now she's like really far ahead in this push, like 3 autos ahead, and landed a Q on Zoe. Because she pushed the 2nd wave faster, because she rushed level 2. I hope we're seeing how this all like connects here. She pushed the 1st wave to get level 2, she got level 2, which allowed her to push the 2nd wave. Now she's pushing the 3rd wave, which will now allow her to potentially help Kindred or whatever, if there's like a fight or whatever. So you can see again, another beautiful Q, hit Zoe and the wave. Amazing. Zoe is still pushing the wave with Q. This is just like sort of what's going on here. Pretty simple stuff. Now, because this is pre-season, when Zoe shows up again, I'll kind of... Okay, so because this is pre-season, Syndra was pretty bad back in pre-season, if you don't remember. And she had very, very high mana costs. And I don't know if she does now, honestly. I'll go and check after. But if you look at their mana, you can just see, right? Zoe's mana is a lot higher than Syndra's. What this means is, Syndra is going to need to find a base timer earlier than Zoe will. Because she's going to run out of mana soon, right? And when you're a Syndra and you have no mana, you can't lane. So Syndra now wants to set up a base timer. What her plan will be, right, is Kindred wants to go for this crab. Graves may want to contest it. Graves may want to go for this crab. We don't know yet. It really depends where Kindred's mark spawns, because it's one of those games where it's like a weird jungler. But whichever Scuttle Crab has the mark, Kindred is probably going to go for. And then Graves is going to go for that as well to deny the mark. So what's going to happen is, Syndra wants to base, because she knows she's going to run out of mana soon. Syndra wants to base as the crab is spawning and then TP back. So what she wants to do is she wants to create a base timer before the crab spawns, which is around the 4th wave. So what she's going to want to do is she's going to want to push the 4th wave, this is currently the 3rd wave, crash it into the enemy tower, and then base and TP back on the map to help her jungler. So pushing the 3rd wave will then make it easier, for the same reason we saw before. Pushing the 2nd wave made it easier to push the 3rd wave, right? So then the same thing again, pushing the 3rd wave will make it easier to push the 4th wave. So that's why she's pushing the 3rd wave here. Because she wants to set up a base timer for the crab, I'm assuming. So you can see here, she's going to probably save her abilities now, wait for the 4th wave to come. And now, Zoe leaves to go ward, I assume. Syndra is going to nuke this wave, because she wants to base TP back to lane and help Kindred on the crab. So you can see here, Q, using her Q. She's saving her E, because she doesn't know where Graves is. Zoe can also, like, just all-in Syndra if Syndra wastes her E. So Syndra right now is holding on to her E. She'll Q and then probably E in a second. Maybe on the next Q. She'll like QE. Yeah, there you go. She QEs, stuns the Zoe, pushes the wave with it. And then she's able to crash the 4th wave right here. boom, boom, set up a base timer, and start basing. And as you can see, the Kindred wants to go for the bot crab because there's a mark on it. Syndra's got a reset timer because she pushed the... Okay, I'll just go like recap the events. She pushed the first wave, so did Zoe. And then on the second wave, she was able to get level 2 first because she pushed slightly faster. Right, so if we go back to the first wave. Syndra pushed this wave slightly faster. As you can see, Syndra pushed this wave slightly faster because she has an extra caster alive, which means she pushed the first wave faster than Zoe did. This extra caster then allowed her to hit level 2 first. Her hitting level 2 first allowed her to push the second wave. And so now, because she pushed the second wave, she now gets to push the third wave slightly faster. Although the third wave didn't actually matter that much in the end because she was just going to nuke the fourth wave anyway. But she could have pushed the third wave faster. But in the end she chose not to. She chose just to like wait on the third wave. But anyway, you can see she got the third wave down to like one shot, right? Like the third wave is pretty much dead now. And so, sorry. And so now she can push the third wave and fourth wave all at once. And this is all because she started pushing on the first wave. And the whole time she in her head knew, I need to push. So the biggest takeaway from this, mage versus mage matchup, focus on the push and only poke when either A, you can hit both the enemy and the wave, right? If you can hit both the enemy and the wave with an ability, as Syndra did earlier, you should poke. Or B, if you already have the push. If you already have the push, then you can poke. So that's the big takeaways here. Another thing I forgot to mention, my mistake, is on this wave, the second minion gets them level 3 first, but in this case, Zoe actually got level 3 first here, and then Syndra was slightly behind on the push. So Syndra gets it here. So if Syndra got level 3 here, and Zoe was still level 2, Syndra would have walked up to punish her. But because Zoe is still level 3, she doesn't walk up. In this case. But I'm hoping you can see how pushing this all like connects together, how the trades worked and stuff. How the wave manipulation is like going. They're both trying to like fight each other for the push, right? That's like the general, I guess, idea of what's happening here. And so now Syndra starts backing. And Zoe actually cancels the base. She actually walks over here. I'm assuming she's going to ward here and try and cancel the base because it's pretty obvious that Syndra is backing here. So that's sort of a mistake by Chovy to like base in an obvious position. And now Syndra's base is actually cancelled. And now Syndra is stuck on the map. Sorry guys, my dog is just like begging for attention right now. Syndra is stuck on the map with 100 mana. And now Kindred wants to contest this crab. Syndra has no mana to do so. Zoe does have mana because her champion is just like, that's just how it works. Her champion has lower mana costs, which now really, really fucks Kindred over because it's going to be hard for him to win this fight. But luckily, the bot lane has actually got prio here, so they can fight this crab still. If the enemy bot lane had prio right now, then Kindred would have to give up this crab entirely. Because Syndra can't help. Because Zoe cancelled the base. Which is why it was really, really important for Syndra to get off this base. Just in the case that she was needed. But yeah, here, now there's going to be a fight because... And Zoe actually tries to all-in Syndra here, but Syndra gets away. She's probably going to bubble her, yep. But the bot lane's moving. And yeah, Syndra actually... How the fuck did that hit, by the way? Hold on a minute, hold on a minute. How does that land? How does that hit Zoe? Like, I'm sorry, but how does that Jin W hit Zoe? That is a scam. That is a fucking scam. What? That is elevation right there, because they're on different ground. What the fuck? Okay, anyway. Chovy probably knew here that Jin and their bot lane was here, so she didn't mind trading kills with Zoe. Because, you know, the worst case scenario here is Syndra dies, Zoe dies, and then Syndra TP's back. And Zoe is stuck without TP. So that's really, really bad for Zoe. Because she would miss minions, Syndra wouldn't miss minions. So Chovy probably doesn't mind like trading deaths here. But he actually ends up getting away because Jin landed the W, which is super, super good. And now, normally after you kill someone, you want to push the wave into tower, because that allows you to base without missing any minions, but he has no resources, so he can't do that. So what he has to do here is he has to base in TP. Now, if he didn't have TP, then what's going to happen here is this wave will probably stay in the middle, roughly. He'll miss maybe 3 minions, Zoe will miss 3 minions, and the lane will be roughly even, but Syndra will be 300 gold ahead due to the kill she got. And that's all because bot lane moved. But if Syndra's TP went off, then it would have been really, really bad for Zoe. Like, the lane would have been really, really good for Syndra if the TP went off. So, Chovy played this lane really well. Probably perfectly up until he got cancelled. That was bad. But after, you know, before he got cancelled, if that base went off, then what would have happened is Chovy would have TP'd back to lane, full HP, full resources, bought like a Dark Seal or something. Zoe would be half health, half mana, and Chovy would just push, 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 and then Zoe would eventually be forced to base and miss a wave. So, Chovy played the lane really well, in accordance to the fact that he had TP. And so yeah, the main takeaway is contest the push for the wave, poke the enemy when you can push the wave at the same time, and make sure that you constantly have that push, because then that allows you to get the lane state you want. Zoe messed up by pushing too slow. She should have pushed the second wave faster to get level 2 first. Should have, in general, she shouldn't have let Syndra poke her while pushing the wave. So, you know, I guess the main takeaway from this so far is focus on the wave when you want to push it in a matchup like this. Really make sure that you, like, focus on pushing it, right? And you don't let the enemy just push you in for free, because then you can't do anything. And it's really, really rough. Anyway, we'll talk about the next, I guess. So now, yeah, Chovy TP's back to lane. And now you'll see Zoe... This is the state the lane should have been in, by the way. This is what should have happened if his base didn't get cancelled. But his base did get cancelled, which then fucked it over. But then Zoe died, which put it back to how it should be. So now this is how the lane should have been, without that like whole thing from Zoe in the fight. This is what the lane should be looking like. And now what you'll see is, when Syndra gets back to lane, boom, boom, here, she farms this, she farms this, she farms this, right? She farms 3 melee minions. Zoe does not. Zoe loses all 3 melee minions. So you see Zoe gets back to lane, all 3 melee minions are now dead. Sorry, I got interrupted there again. So Zoe ends up missing 3 melee minions. Syndra gets those 3 melee minions. And so now what happens is... Oh, sorry. So now what happens is, Syndra will hit level 5 first. And then that allows her to get the push. Because Zoe will be level 4, she'll be zoned away. And then Syndra can get level 6 first. And because she'll have pushed Zoe under tower, maybe poked her a bit, she might be able to kill her. So now the goal, you know, in general, is to push Zoe in, poke her as much as possible, and then when you hit level 6, kill her. Or force her to base. So that's Chovy's, like, goal now. And Zoe wants to stop that. And to stop that, you need to avoid taking poke. So Zoe should be thinking now, I really don't want to take poke, and this is really, really bad for her. So you can see what happens here. Zoe walks up to get this last hit, and then Syndra is waiting for that and punishes her as soon as she does it. Really, really clean by Syndra. And yeah, you can... Oh, sorry. You can sort of see there, that was really, really clean by Chovy, actually. Like, really quick. You can see the moment she sort of, like, locks herself in animation here, you can see. And then she sort of stops for a second, then turns around, because she realizes she can't get the last hit. Syndra immediately punishes that, which is really, really nice by Chovy. Boom, pops the phase rush. And so now you'll see, off of this cannon, Zoe does not get level 5. But Syndra does. So now, Zoe is behind. She is gonna... If she trades with Syndra now, she's gonna lose. Because a level is a lot in League of Legends. A level is worth a lot of stats. So right now, Zoe is forced to run away and be zoned away. And now, Syndra will push this. And then she'll crash it into tower, and then she can do whatever she wants. And this is all as a result of... Let's just pretend, okay? Let's just pretend, for the sake of, like, this making more sense, that Syndra's base didn't get cancelled and Zoe didn't die. What would have happened is Zoe would have based... Syndra would have based TP back, we would be in this situation. Right, so let's... This is all because Syndra got the push on the first wave, and then the second wave, then the third wave, and then the fourth wave, and then she was able to get a good base timer. Zoe should have pushed harder. That was her mistake. She didn't push hard enough. She let Syndra push and poke her for free too much. So this was bad by Zoe. She should have pushed Syndra much harder. And then she cancelled the base, so it wasn't actually that bad. But yeah. If we're assuming that whole thing didn't happen, it would have been bad by Zoe. She definitely should have pushed the lane harder. She should have had Syndra on the, like, retreat, because she has Ignite, and it would be really bad if she didn't, and then this ends up happening. So, yeah, now you can see Syndra's just pushing. Zoe is forced to, like, just try and contest the push as little as possible. That was good by Zoe, actually. She gets an E. And yeah, you can see, like, now Like, you can see how hard Zoe loses that trade, right? She lands a bubble, but she still loses the trade really fucking hard. I think the Q actually landed as well. And just look at her health compared to Chovy. Right now, she's fucked. She now is forced to reset soon and lose some minions. She takes another Q. So this is really not looking good for Zoe. And now this is going to push back into Zoe. If Syndra wants it to, obviously. Zoe can also try and push this wave. She can also try and push this wave and reset. If she pushes this wave and resets, for Zoe, that is really, really good. For Syndra, that's bad. But the problem is she's now low because Chovy hit level 5 first. And pokes her down really hard. So now, like, Zoe is in, like, a really, really rough spot. If Zoe can push this without dying, she's happy. If Zoe pushes this and dies, obviously she's not happy. So the problem now is Zoe's in a position where she has to push while being really, really low and potentially die. And the reason Syndra doesn't have the push right now, by the way, is because she poked Zoe. Syndra used the level advantage here. You can see Syndra could have queued the minions here. She could have pushed the wave, but instead she chose to try and poke Zoe. And you can see here, again, Zoe goes in, she uses the W on Zoe instead of the wave, because she knows it's going to land. And then here, she uses her next E and her next Q on Zoe. Right, you see here, EQ on Zoe instead of the wave. So Syndra could have pushed, but she knew that she would be able to poke Zoe because the Zoe was like walking up too far. So she chose to poke instead. And so now we're in this situation where Zoe was able to push it, but now she's really low because Syndra poked Zoe. If Zoe played safe and didn't let Syndra poke, instead we would be in the situation where Syndra would be pushing Zoe into tower. And now Zoe would be forced to play Dodge Simulator under tower while trying to farm. So that's sort of the game plan that Zoe chose to go with. She chose to try and push, sacrifice her health, and avoid death. Now she has to push this wave without dying. So... And Syndra's obviously going to try and kill her. Accuses Zoe. Zoe is just like struggling so hard right now. And now Zoe is forced to back off. Because Syndra's going to hit 6 soon. Probably off this wave, right? I think it is. No. So yeah, now Zoe is forced to run away. Because she's too low. She's forced to base. Now what this means is she misses a minion. She misses that minion. She pushes this under tower. She misses another minion. She misses another minion. So... And then she might actually miss this minion also. Okay, no. So Zoe ends up missing, like, I think, what, 4 minions? Because what happened was Syndra used her level advantage to poke Zoe really low, which then stopped Zoe from crashing the wave into her, which then allowed her to deny some minions. So the key thing there was using her level advantage, because she knew she was going to hit level 5 first, to either poke Zoe or push the wave. She chose to poke Zoe because she knew the poke would land, which then allowed her to build an advantage. And, I mean, we can keep... This video has been going on for quite a while, so I'm just going to end it here. We talked about the early laning, we talked about the lane opening, how Syndra pushed early, she fought for the push, played really, really well by Chovy. Then after getting the push, that allowed her to get a 3 minion advantage, which then allowed her to get a 7 minion advantage, because she was able to use the 3 minion advantage to bully Zoe. And that's the summary of this lane. Hopefully there are some things you can take away, like how she pushed the wave, how she traded, how she used her Q to like push the wave and hit Zoe at the same time, how pushing allowed her to get the push on the second wave, third wave, etc. So yeah, thanks for watching, in a bit.